Hey everyone, I am back for another day of renovations, and today we're going to be focused in that bathroom. We're going to be putting up that Goboard, and we're going to work on sealing around that tub. So I was traveling all last week. I don't have any updates to show you today, and I'm actually filming on the day I don't normally film because I want to tackle this, but I also want to show you what it looks like to put this up and how I'm going to do it. I am by no means an expert, but I've watched a lot of videos. I've read the instructions. I'm really excited to show you how I'm going to do it. As a reminder though, this is not a how-to channel. This is more of a how I am going to do it channel, right? I'm not an expert. I'm just doing my best, but I do want to share this with folks so you know, everyone can see that this is something that you don't necessarily need a professional for, right? You know, it's never going to be perfect, but it is something you can do yourself. So we're just going to get right into it today because we got a ton of work to do. So this is Goboard. This is the product we're going to be working with today. It's about a 1/2 inch thick. It's 3 feet wide by about 5 feet wide. I didn't know this existed until I saw it at Lowe's, right near the cement board. And they didn't really advertise it super well, and they didn't have any of the stuff that goes with it around it, which I thought was interesting. So not, at least at my Lowe's, not super great presentation. But I opted to go with this over cement board because I thought it would be a lot easier to use. It was like double the price, so I think each sheet was about 30 bucks. But when you balance out the ease of use, the lack of dust, ease of cutting, and I think just in general, like just handling, right? It's super light. I don't know how much it weighs. It's super lightweight though. I opted to give this a try. I think it's going to be comparable to the Schluter version of this that I've seen in videos. But yeah, I've never done this before. I figured for my first go at it, this was probably a good product to choose. So in this box are the main components of the Goboard installation system, I guess. First off, we've got the washers, and they do actually make some screws as well that have like sort of largish heads that you can also use. These are the only things I could find. And I bought 3 boxes because I wasn't sure how many I was going to need. My assumption is I'll return whatever I don't use. But essentially, you put a screw in the center here when you get the Goboard up, and it kind of bites into the Goboard and really connects it well to the wall. I've got this Goboard Pro sealant, so you're supposed to use this for joints, corners. Also, whenever you create a penetration through the Goboard with the screw, you put the sealant over top, and then you smooth it out with a putty knife. So every single one of these needs some sealant on top of it. And I actually couldn't find the Goboard screws that are supposed to go with the washers. So I opted to go with some GRK fasteners. These are meant for wet areas. These shouldn't actually be exposed to any water, but I did want to make sure that these weren't going to present any sort of problem, especially because I wasn't using the ones that you're supposed to use. So I really did try and find the right screws, but I just couldn't find them anywhere. They were out of stock everywhere, I think even online. So I just went with what I reasoned out would best to be used in that situation. One other thing is that I definitely overbought this stuff. For the space that I've got, right? I just got a small little shower. There's nothing worse for me than having a job like this carry over where, you know, it requires a lot of thinking and a lot of mental preparation, right? I just want to get it done the same day. So I always overbuy, knowing that I can just return it afterwards. So before we get started, I'm going to show you my plan for this lip here. I'm just going to show you with a piece of 1/2 inch drywall how I'm planning on doing this. So essentially, right, this side of the drywall is going to represent where the Goboard goes down. And what I'm going to do is get it just to the right height here, and then I'm going to put a piece of this kind of cocksaver, this backer rod in there. I'm going to put some sealant up underneath behind the rod, and then I'm going to put some on the front here once I get the tile on as well. So I'll have 2 layers of sealant plus this water resistant backer rod here running up underneath that Goboard, which I think is going to do a really good job of ensuring that no water gets behind here. For this portion here where the tub is going to meet the board, I'm going to do my best to get a really tight fit here. And I've got some waterproofing membrane that I'm going to put here, as well as some caulk that I'm going to use to kind of fill in the gap here to ensure that I don't get any water kind of going down here into this channel. When I've seen people install cement backer board or similar products, usually they start with this back wall here. I'm not going to do that, and here's why. So this distance here is almost exactly 36 3/4 inches, and the Goboard is about 36 and 1/16 inch total width. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on this side. I'm going to get this up and all measured well, and then I'm actually going to take a full sheet of Goboard and basically just butt it up against the side here that I've created. What that's going to do is it's going to give me a nice surface to put that sealant on. So when I do butt that piece of Goboard up against it, right, it'll lock in nice and tight. This side over here is going to be pretty similar. And because I've got the thinner piece of backer here that I'm gonna screw into, screwing that in first ensures that I get a nice bite into this piece of wood. And then I'm going to have to probably fiddle with the edges a little bit here, but ultimately I'll just put that third piece on here, get it all sealed up, and I think it's actually going to work out pretty well. All right, so I'm just going to lay this stuff down. All right, so this is one of those cuts where I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to make it as straight as I can. I'm still kind of freehanding it. So I think after the first cut, you can break it, but I'm going to give it another one. That was nice. You can see or not, but there's basically a rigid side here that feels very stiff, almost like it's got a cement binder or something in it. And there's just a rigid foam inside. And both sides appear to be kind of similar or the same. I'm going to hang on this side, but I wouldn't be surprised if you can use the unprinted side as well. Quick dry fit to see how we did. So what I'm just now learning, because I know I put a level on this before, is that I checked the front of the tub and probably the back of the tub, but I didn't check side to side. So over this 3-foot span, there's about an inch of drop on the tub. So obviously that's not ideal. It's going to make tiling a lot harder. And even right now, I got to deal with it to make sure this Goboard is cut. So I'm going to have the appropriate 1/4 inch gap around the surround. So my day just got harder. All right, so I think I'm all ready to install my first sheet. One thing I did learn is that when handling this stuff, use cut-resistant gloves. There's some sort of material in it that is sticking into my fingers right now and making me very uncomfortable. So the installation instructions recommend starting in kind of the center of the Goboard with the washers and not doing anything with the butt joints until you get the second piece up and you've sealed them with the sealant. All right, so that's one sheet down. We're going to do the one right above it next. I would say the biggest recommendation I have so far when working with this stuff is just to wear gloves when you're cutting it. I'm looking at it. I think there's some sort of like fiberglass reinforcement in it. I've got it in my fingers right now, and it does not feel good. All right, so I got this next piece all cut. What I need to do now is take this sealant and run a bead along where the two boards are going to butt up against each other. Next thing I gotta do is put some washers here along this joint to pull everything together. And before I do that, I'm gonna put a little bit more sealant in here in the corners just to make sure I've got that crack entirely filled in. So now it's pretty much the same thing as before, except I'm putting washers directly on the joint. All right, so now that I have that on, I'm just going to take a putty knife and just wipe this down so I don't have to cut it off when I come back through here and fill it all in. And I'm actually going to fill these right now because I've already got these with putty on them. All right, so this isn't going to be my final pass on these. I decided to fill them because I already had the sealant out and I didn't want any ridges over top here when it dried, so I just filled these in. For now, I'm not quite ready to take that on yet because I want to make sure I have enough sealant to do all the butts. All right, so if I did this correctly, I should be able to put a whole 3 by 5 foot sheet of Goboard just right on back here without doing any cutting. Yep, that looks perfect. So I'm excited this worked out. I do have another strip to put up here, and I actually think it's going to be wide enough. So I only bought 5 sheets of Goboard. This actually may work. All right, so before I hang this last piece, I am going to just caulk all up in here where I've got a bit of a gap to make sure that no water has a chance of leaking down in there. All right, so now it's the same as the other ones. I'm just gonna put the washers on and screw everything in. All right, so I've got everything hung. The last thing I need to do is go around, and for every one of these washers, I need to apply sealant and then kind of work it in with a putty knife. All right, so the last thing I'm gonna do today is take care of this under area here. So I've got this extending over the lip of the tub. What I'm gonna do is just vacuum this out real quick, and I'm gonna shove some sealant up underneath there, and then I'm gonna push a gasket underneath, which should provide a barrier between the studs and the tub, so that if any water does get up there, it won't be able to get back and rot the wood. All right, so I'm just gonna start on the side here, start working that under the lip. All in all, I would say this is a good experience. Very similar, actually, to putting up drywall, even down to the fact that I had to cover all the screw holes afterwards. I've never actually done cement board before, but I do think in the future I would favor this system for a couple reasons. So right off the bat, this is all waterproof, right? I've got everything covered in sealant where it needs to be. So the board itself is waterproof, and there's really nothing else I need to do in here as a step two. So if I was using cement board, assuming I'd already gone through and done the fiberglass mesh tape on the seams and done thinset over that, I would still need to waterproof this. So I'd have to come in here with a roller and basically do all the surfaces, because cement board isn't actually waterproof. With the Goboard, I don't have to do that. So really this is a one-day install versus maybe a 2-day install if I'd gone with a cement board. So I'd have to wait for that thinset to set up before I went over it with the waterproofing sealer membrane stuff. So I did go through quite a bit of materials. This is a 3 foot by 3 foot by 6 foot space, and I ended up using about 3 of these sealants. I used about a pack and a half of the Goboard washers and about, I would say, 175 or so screws. All in, when you include the price of the sealant, the washers, the screws, and the board itself, I think it's cost me about $320 or so. Now, if I'd gone with cement board, I think it would have been significantly less expensive. I think it would have been about maybe $230, $240 to go with the cement board. And then, like I said, the Goboard was about $320. So, roughly $100 difference. So while I haven't actually started putting up any tile yet, I would say for me, for the ease that it went up, as well as the speed, right? 1 day versus 2, this is definitely something I would use again. What I will say, though, is definitely wear gloves when you're cutting it. I don't know what's in that stuff, but it definitely feels like there's little needles in my hand, so not great. Don't forget the gloves. All right, so I think that's going to do it for me for the day. Not quite the variety I like to bring to the videos, but I do hope that this was actually informative for anyone who might be on the fence about something like the Goboard product. When I was out there looking, I really didn't see much by way of install videos, and certainly not a lot on the product itself. And as of right now, because of the ease of use, the time that it took, I would definitely recommend it. But again, I don't have the background in any other product. For a first timer, thumbs up. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.